today you're in this job and tomorrow you're terminated. I have seen this happening in the company. I have seen CSDs who've worked for 15, 16 years getting terminated because of things like there have been instances where you will be instantly terminated or demoted and you will not even get to know what happened. So be prepared. Think before you join this company, this profession. Hi everyone, my name is Twinkle and welcome back to a brand new episode on my YouTube channel. In today's video, I'm going to be telling you 10 disadvantages or shortcomings or drawbacks, whatever you want to call it, of being a cabin crew in Qatar Airways and any other Middle East airline as well. Because most of the videos or most of the people that you might have come across or wherever you read or any other videos, people only talk about how glamorous the job is, how beneficial it is, the kind of benefits and advantages. And if you've seen my last video as well, before the Jet Airways news, I spoke about all the advantages and the amazing things regarding salary, benefits, insurance and whatnot. That you get after becoming a cabin crew with these Middle East airlines. But what nobody talks about is what goes behind this oh so glamorous cabin crew job. And in this video, I'm exactly going to do that. I'm going to tell you all 10 big drawbacks or disadvantages of working with a Middle East airline. Specifically Qatar Airways, because I have been working in Qatar Airways for over a decade, and whatever I'm going to tell you is going to be an outcome of my own experience. This opinion is strictly based on my own experience of working with Qatar Airways. On that note, let's get into the video. So the number one disadvantage of working with the Qatar Airways is restrictions. Yes, there are a lot of restrictions, from curfew, from minimum rest to no alcohol, no pork, no boys. There are a lot of restrictions and rules which you need to abide by. Now, I understand there are rules which will help you sustain a better professional life, a progressive career. However, these restrictions can somehow disturb your personal life and how you live your life after your job, like once you're done with the flight. Most of the times there will be people who will not be able to adjust with these rules. For example, if you haven't seen my myths and facts video, which I'm going to put it somewhere here or here, you must check it out, because I've clarified all the regulations and rules which as a part of Qatar Airways that you have to follow. But when you're a part of Qatar Airways, you have to follow things like curfew. Curfew meaning that you cannot go out from 4 a.m. to 7 a.m. This is the first thing, and you have to be back by 4 a.m. Yeah, and you cannot exit your accommodation before 7 a.m. Another thing is that there are no boys allowed. You cannot stay with boys. You are not allowed to have male visitors who are non-crew. These things are very well explained in that video, so I will highly recommend you go ahead and watch that video. If you have a flight the next day, you are not supposed to step out of your accommodation for any reasons 12 hours before the flight. If in case you have a reason like a delivery or laundry, something like that, you only have 90 minutes. Then you have your ID cards, you swipe in and swipe out, and whenever you are on standby, you have to be inside the accommodation. And there are a lot of other rules as well. So you constantly feel that you're kind of trapped, or you're in a school or college. And guys, it can differ, because we work in a multicultural environment and there are different kind of people. Now there will be some people who will be okay with it. Again, I said, different people, different mindset and different priorities. For some people, it might be okay to abide by these rules. For some people, it might be very, very difficult in general to abide by these rules, they might feel that they don't want to prioritize their career, like they don't give that much of advantage to this job, because somewhere in their personal life also they have to take care of these rules. So it totally depends. But what I want to tell you here is that you really need to decide very, very well in advance, because once you get into the job, which is also my second disadvantage, you get into a contract and a bond. You get into a contract of 3 years. So when you get your job, like you get selected, you will be emailed a contract. You're supposed to read it and sign it. If you have any clarifications, of course you can go and clarify it with the concerned department. But once you sign in for the job, you're signing in for a 3-year contract. Meaning that if tomorrow you get into a job and you want to change your mind, like any other jobs, you don't like it after working for 2-3 months, you find the training very difficult, you find the schedules very hectic, and you can't cope up with the kind of environment in general, you just don't like the job. It's not going to be that easy that you'll kind of flip and after 2 months you suddenly decide that I don't want to do this job anymore. Guys, you cannot do this. If you do this, you will have to pay hefty amount. You'll have to pay fines, penalties. Plus you have a bond which will be defined as service undertaking. Now what is service undertaking is that you are signing in to work with the company for 2 years, and the company will deduct a certain amount from your salary every month, and they are spending on your training, and these are the costs they incur on training you and preparing you as a crew. But if you leave the job early, you will have to pay them that amount, and also the kind of welcome bonus which you get for 2000 riyals. When you arrive, you are supposed to pay 1000 back. So these are the costs also which you're supposed to pay back, and the tickets also are not decided whether they'll give you, when they'll give you. So these are a lot of things that you have to keep in mind once you are signing in for the job, because once you sign in, you're already signing in for 3 years or 2 years minimum, because that's your contract and bond. So when you decide, please decide wisely, because if you want to change your decision in the middle, like before this time, it might get really difficult. Another thing that I want to add in is this 3-year contract is renewable, but it is renewable mutually. If they find your performance up to the mark or something like that, then only they will give you an agreement, like a contract again, and it has to come from the company side also. If they somehow don't need your services because it's a 3-year contract, they will not continue your service, and they can tell you that we don't require services anymore and you're good to go. That's one thing. Also, another thing is during this whole tenure of 3 years, if there are clauses which are added, because see, it's to be very honest, cabin crew who are very young, most of them are very young when you get into this job, because there are so many benefits and the salary is very good and the lifestyle is very good. People often tend to ignore all these things. They don't go through the contracts, they don't go through the clauses, which later, at a later stage, when they require, when things go haywire, they need to refer, they realize that they never got into details, and it can be a bigger problem. So when you are into this tenure of 3 years, company adds clauses and you have no option to just sign and take the new contract. Because if in any case you have a problem also, that's your problem. You don't really have an option that I don't want this clause to be added, because the company has added the clause already and you only have one option to either sign, or if you don't want to sign, you can go to your managers and probably you can leave the job. This is going to be the only option, which you don't want to do in the middle of this thing, in this beautiful job. So yeah, this is another thing that you might want to consider. Read your contracts properly and wisely. Disadvantage number 3, reporting culture. Now, what is reporting culture? You must have seen me, if you follow me, that I talk about how I like the culture in Middle East Airlines and how everything comparatively, if I compare to India, is better there because of lack of politics. But By me saying comparatively less does not mean that it's not there, it does not exist at all. Now, when you work in multicultural environment, there are different kind of people with different mindset, different nationalities. Some might like you, some might not like you. Some might be jealous of your success, some might be not happy with something or the other. Some might be, now there might be people who are 100% following everything like rules, and if they think that they report, because company supports this. If you are following rules and if you see someone else who's not following the rules in that mindset of getting promoted or getting in the good books of the company, you might want to report that other person who has done a bit of a mistake, or kind of molded rules a little bit, or did not follow things at all. Now this person who wants to get promoted or want to come in the good books, or I don't know, whatever their mindset is, will report that person who did not abide to rules of the company, and the company might take actions against you, which can even cost you your job, which can even cost you like demotions. You can get demoted also. In my own tenure, I've seen CSDs getting demoted to F2, like the lowest position in cabin crew job, which is a very, very big deal. So because of one person who reports, the other person can actually get demoted to this level. It can really cost them their career, their job. And I have myself seen people getting demoted, such nice people, such nice CSDs and supervisors getting demoted because of some carelessness or stupid behavior of other crew. And then you really can't do anything, because at that moment when you've been so long in the company, or you've achieved or attained that position, and now you are demoted, the company wants you to work, they want you to be in the company, but they don't want you to work at that position as a punishment. You just have no option. Now you can either decide to stay with the company or not, but I have seen most of them working. So this can be really, really disastrous. So you have to be also careful about this kind of culture, because this kind of culture prevails. I will not say a lot, but it does prevail, because again, different people, different mindset. So be prepared for this kind of culture as well. The next point that I'm going to tell you is also kind of similarly related, and it is about job security. So the job security is not really 100%. I've seen people asking me how much of, how promising this career is it a lifetime career, do they give you guarantee, job guarantee, until what age can you do that? So guys, unfortunately, I would like to enlighten you that this job is very, very volatile. Like today you're in this job and tomorrow you're terminated. I have seen this happening in the company. I have seen CSDs who've worked for 15, 16 years getting terminated because of things like they smoked in the hotel room, and there were the fire alarm came off, the crew paid for the fines of the hotel, which I'm talking about a layover, yeah. And still the hotel reported the crew to the company, the CSD being such a loyal employee and there for so many years, it was not considered, and one mistake and he was chucked out of the company. Working for so many years, company did not think twice. So yes, if you talk about job security, I don't really think I'd have a better answer to tell you that there's no job security at all. Apart from this, also you can get terminated for the smallest of issues. Let me give you an example. So the CEO and the auditors or checkers who are on board or do random checks, there are random checks, and once we had a crew who was using the lift, the elevator, and the CEO, because of course sits in the same office, he tend to came in the lift and he found a crew having keychains like charms or a sanitizer bottle, things like that, hanging out of the crew bag, which is not allowed as per the standards. Though if you all, because you're not in the company, you're listening to me, might feel that it is very tiny thing, but if it's not allowed and the crew is not following the rules, this is just not up to the standards, and it is no tolerance policy for this as well. the CEO got to know about this, the CEO asked that crew, who was a training crew, I guess she was there for a training or something, and he just asked her the batch. He was reported to the manager or the trainer, and then she actually lost her job. So there have been instances where you will be instantly terminated or demoted and you will not even get to know what happened. So the job security part is something that you cannot have as a cabin crew, especially in Qatar Airways, when they're very, very strict. When I tell you, they are very strict with rules. They reward you, they give you so many benefits, they give you so many good things. So you also pay a price like this. See, everything comes with a price. Yeah, don't take it in the other sense, but you have to be prepared for this kind of culture when you're in uniform, when you're on duty, because the company is taking care of everything. You have to make sure you are 100% abiding by the company rules. So be prepared. Think before you join this company, this profession. The next disadvantage is also in correlation to the points that I've discussed. I'm kind of discussing the ones which are interrelated, so it's easy for you guys to understand. So this one is about faster demotions. Now, I've discussed that crew to crew there are problems and you get demoted. So don't even think of having a kind of a tiff or a fight or a disagreement during your flight, because these are the things which are absolutely not tolerated by the company. And if you've done this on a flight, forget it. You will just lose your job, because these things are not tolerated by the company. Now, this was the crew part, like your colleagues. Apart from that, even if a passenger, like a customer, complains against you, or you've done something which you're not supposed to do, because see, there are random checks, there are auditors on flight, there are frequent flyers, there are people who fly more than the crew. And I really mean it. You'll see gold members flying, you'll see different kind of people. So you're supposed to again do your job 100%. Even when you're in flight, you think nobody is watching you, there is someone who's 100% watching you all the time. They can be your supervisors, they can be your colleagues. If not them, then the customers itself. If they are promised something and they don't get it, if you are depriving them of some service that they are supposed to get, and they know of that, or you do something that you're not supposed to do, you treat them rude or whatever it is, but valid things, they will complain. And once the complaint reaches the company, there is an action which is taken against you. If it's not taken against you, you will be called in the office. You will first waste your day off. You can even get de-rostered, like your flight. If there is a flight, they can remove your flight, because see, they want to investigate now. So there will be proper investigations. They will call you to the office. You will be called. Your statements will be taken. The crew, if it requires, they'll call every crew, the concerned crew. They will discuss the matter. There's a different department which talks about the complaints, which discusses, because now they have to answer. And let me tell you, there are customers who do it to get money from the company also. So it's not just that they want to do something against you, but they also want to save companies money, because there are people who are doing it just for the sake of money. So they have to really investigate all of that. But if this thing gets proven and you don't have enough things to support you, you might get demoted. If not demoted, you might be issued letters of caution, advice, warning letters. You might get terminated depending upon the severity of the situation. All of these things, you are going to pay for this. Not like literally, but you will be paying it in the form of letters, demotions. If you have a promotion lined up, you will be demoted. Your trainings will be removed. You'll have IDPs, which is individual development performance plans, where you'll get assessed. You'll have exams or tests on flight to see if you're properly working, you're performing or not. So these are the things that also can stress you a lot on flights and can actually affect you day-to-day life and day-to-day performance. Permissions and random checks. Now, whether you're moving out or you're getting married, you want to have a baby, or you want to have a vehicle, you want a license, you want to color your hair, you want to either move out or get a transfer, you want to have a different kind of makeup or get even extensions done. For every little thing you need to take permission. For every little thing in your personal life also, even the hair colors and stuff, you need to get it checked, confirmed from the grooming department. Again, there are a lot of rumors about that you cannot get married or you cannot get pregnant or things like that. And then again, there are statements by the company and by different people that this is the particular reason that the company doesn't allow you. No, I will not say that they don't allow you, but you still need permission. They will not terminate you, but you need permissions for everything. Yes, you want to get married and you want to take leaves. But before everything, you need to take permission from the company that you're getting married. You need to give details of your spouse. What does he or she do? If it's in the company, you need to give details. So that needs to go to the higher management. Only in that case if it gets approved, then can you proceed with anything. Then you'll apply for leave, and that leave will also be approved by the company if in case it gets for the number of days. For example, you need it for 2 months or a month and the company does not have that kind of leave. Even if you have that leave and the company does not want you to take it, you will have to manage in the number of leaves they give it to you. So there are permissions involved, a lot of permissions. Another example, that if you want to get a certain hair color but the company doesn't allow it and it does not look natural on your hair, so you cannot get it done. And if in case you went on a layover, you went crazy and you really liked the color and you got it done, you got your brows matched to your hair color, the company will check. There are regular grooming checks before every flight. You're checked top to bottom, nails, slipper, every little thing. Even your lashes are checked. So if you're someone who's thinking that I'll get lash extensions done and lip fillers done and everything, if they don't like it, they don't want you to go like this on a flight, you will be offloaded. You will be offloaded from that flight. You'll get letters that you was offloaded and the flight operations got disturbed because of you. You will get letters for not abiding by the company rules, and you as soon as possible have to get it rectified. So it's better to have permissions and checks. So now if you whether you like it or not, you have to take permission. Either you take permissions, get into that hassle, or just skip doing anything at all. I think the first one is better, get permissions. Another one is, even if you want to get out of the country, you have to take permits. There is an exit permit that you need to apply in time. And if you get it, only then can you leave the country. Otherwise, sit nicely in your country. If you only have 1 day off, not 2, you cannot leave the country. So these are a few permissions and checks and a lot more that you should know before you join Qatar Airways. No privacy at all. Now, why I am saying no privacy at all is because now different people, different opinions. There are security personnel, there are cameras set in your accommodation which is provided by the company. So you are 24/7 being watched. There is a security guard who sits right in the building, like downstairs as a part of your reception. So they have monitors. They are specially employed to check on you. They can check your activities. Even if you're moving around in the building, you're visiting your friend in the same building, they can see it. You're going up, down, you are going out of the building, you're coming inside, you've got ID cards, you need to swipe them in and swipe out whenever you are entering or exiting the accommodation. So there are timestamps which goes to the company. They can check if required, if reported, they will check your entry and exit, and if found violating, again there will be actions which can go either to demotions, which I have not seen yet. I've only seen terminations if somebody not following the minimum rests and rules and regulations with regards to following entry and exit. Tailgating, which also means like somebody else is using somebody else's ID card. Like I am using my friend's ID card so that I can swipe and go out on her name when I am on my minimum rest, when I am in I have a duty tomorrow morning and I want to go out, so I'll go take her ID and go. It does not work that way. You might get away with it for a few days, but if you get reported, you lose your job. If the security finds out, because there is a pickup list that you get you also get transport by the company. So there are pickup timings. That list comes out by evening or afternoon, and then it's put downstairs. The security knows it with your staff number and your flight number. Your timings of pickup are there, your reporting time is also there. So he knows it, what you're doing. And of course, I will not blame them because they are paid to report you. Not literally paid, but they have commissions if they report you. So they get somewhere around 500 riyals to report a person to do their job basically 100%. So why not? If they find you coming in late to 2 minutes or even 1 minute, they will report you because they're just doing their job. So yeah, you are being watched. There are CCTV cameras even in the lobby, in the corridors. For some of the accommodations, it is not there everywhere on every floor, but in my accommodation where I lived, it was there everywhere. So you might be lucky, but not that lucky that people are not watching you. So you're being watched 24/7. Another thing that I want to tell you is, even if there is a visitor from your family or not from your family, even a crew, that person will submit their licenses, their ID cards, their resident permit if they're not a crew, and take a prior permission from the company. Apart from that, if a cabin crew is visiting you, they're supposed to make an entry, exit, and if there is a boy, for example, you're in a female accommodation and a guy is visiting you, if it's 5 minutes to 10 p.m., which is the curfew time, that security guard will also call you saying it's 5 minutes, sir, you should be leaving the accommodation. So these are the things that you should expect from the security guard. Hectic calling in sick procedures. Now let me explain this to you with an example. Now this job definitely comes with hectic schedules, long working hours, back-to-back flying, more than enough flying hours of even 100 plus, 120 plus hours. If you've seen my salary video, which I'm going to link here, I talk about my own salary of Qatar Airways. You can see the hours that I've flown there, which is absolutely authentic. So long hours, long flying hours, no proper rest, no proper food, disturbed body clock, and then which will all result into very poor and bad health. And because you're flying in different time zones, you will get sick. So sickness, back pains, and different other issues are very, very common amongst cabin crew. Because come on guys, now you're flying with passengers who might be sick. You are anyway not living a very healthy lifestyle with food and the kind of lifestyle that you have, with the kind of timings that you maintain. You will be sick, which is normal. However, procedure for calling in sick and validating that is very, very difficult. Again, let me explain you this with an example. For example, now if you have back pain, now you called in sick saying that I have back pain and I cannot operate the flight. You don't have to explain it to someone. Of course, calling in sick, you have procedures, yeah. For this also you have to have a proper timing. 2.5 hours before at least you need to report sick. You can't report sick last minute. If you do that, again, letters, office, that same story. You need to explain everything. There are a lot of procedures involved. So a lot of people are being scared of these procedures, that they need to go to the office, they need to explain themselves, they'll get a letter. You know, refrain from even reporting sick and try to go on flights with not 100% proper health. They will operate the flight with the cough, cold, fever, or whatever problems is, and they will underperform. Results, some other person will do their work, or the other person who's working with them will get sick. It's just unhygienic. I don't understand why people do it, but they do it because of the hectic procedures. Why? Because once you report sick, the procedure doesn't stop there. You're supposed to validate it, and to validate it, you need to go to a doctor. You visit a doctor on the same day. If you've reported sick, that day you will go to the doctor. The doctors which are approved by the company, you will go to those doctors, get yourself checked, and only if they approve that you're certainly sick, you'll get a sickness letter by them. Otherwise, they will not even issue you a letter. And mind you, because I've never I've never played with my health. I've given 100% attention to my health. If I felt even slightest of back pain or cough or cold, because I have rhinitis, I used to get sick often with cold and cough, I will never fly. So I know about this because I've personally faced this, me going to the doctors and the doctors telling me that it is fine, it's just normal cold and cough and you can fly. Of course I can fly, I'm not dying, I can fly, but I am not in the best of my health to do a 16-hour long flight or a 10-hour flight. These things doctors will not understand, and they will not give you a fitness like a sickness certificate, and you will again go to the managers to explain and stuff. And mind you, I've even gone to my managers to explain that this is the thing that happens to you, because some things cannot be detected by the doctor on the same day. That needs to be tested. You need a certain doctor for that. There are certain kind of issues. And I have actually gone out of my way to explain my managers. I did this, of course, because I wanted to do it, but there are people who want to avoid this because it's a hassle, it's a day of waste, and people don't want to get into all this. So again, it's your choice. But yes, the procedures are difficult because they were at the time when I was leaving, there were instructions to the doctors. The doctor himself or herself told me that we are being instructed by the company to not be so lenient with providing sickness certificates. So if they really think that you need it, only then they will give you. Why? Because they want to avoid crew calling in sick, which is really sick, like it's lame. I don't understand. But again, if you have that kind of energy to explain yourself, go ahead, because it is going to cost you again demotions. You'll get letters because you're reporting sick, so your productivity, your performance get affected, and all of these things accumulate and again affect your performance and everything. Examinations and assessments. Now another surprise, if you guys are not aware of it, and I'm sorry if you are not aware of this, if you don't like studying, then also you might want to consider this job, because after you become a cabin crew, before you become a cabin crew as well, and after, before, during flying, you will always have to go through exams, assessments, audits, random checks and trainings. Now, because cabin crew job, our priority is safety, and safety cannot be flexible. Like, you cannot mold the content, mold the knowledge, the education, the rules, the ACN notices, whatever things are there, you are supposed to know it by heart. The drills, the procedures, it is supposed to be known by you black and white, and you are tested on it. They can be officials by QCAA, they can be officials by safety department, they can be officials from the company who will check on your knowledge randomly. Like, you're on a flight and they decide to check on you, they decide to test on you, and there will be checkers on board, performance officers on board. There will be assessments every 3 months or 6 months. You are assessed in flight. Like, your supervisors will, in simple language, take your exams, and you're assessed the whole flight. Whatever you're doing, your actions, your service, your knowledge, product knowledge, you'll be asked questions. All these things will be a part of your daily life, and you have to cope up with this. There is no other options. You will have trainings every year, which is recurrent. You will have triannual training, which will be happening every 3 years. You need to clear them 100%. You need to score above 88 to 90% to clear it. Again, failing which, you will have to repeat your training. You can also get demoted. So you really have to stress about this. You have to stress and you have to study. So either you stress or you study. I guess you should study. So you have to study. Just be prepared for all the kind of exams, even for your further promotions or your interviews, your in-company interviews, like your internal interviews. I'm talking about for internal vacancies. You need to study, you have to clear an examination, and then only you are considered. You have regular notices, adverts, circulars, which which make changes to clauses in your manuals. You have this big manuals, first aid manuals, safety manuals, service manuals, everything. You need to know them by heart. If not service, but first aid and safety, because you're using them every day and you don't know when you will need to face an emergency or a first aid casualty or a first aid situation. You need to face it. You need to know it 100%, and for that you need to refresh your memory every time. You need to keep doing that because you don't know when are you going to get into trouble. The last thing that I want to discuss in this video is multicultural environment. Now, as much as it is an advantage, it can be a very big disadvantage as well. Why? Because first, when you have flights, you have longer flights, sometimes you will have crew from single nationality and they will all gang up. If gang up is not the correct word, they will tend to make a group because of obvious reasons, being from the same nationality. Now this might be on every flight, might not be there on all flights. It can differ, right? The situations can be different. So in case where you don't have someone to speak to because you probably don't get along with someone, that can happen with your own nationality as well. You don't get along with someone, or you're flying with someone who you have flown with before and you don't like that person. You've had conflict, you had kind of an argument, you had a cold war, you were not getting along, there were a crew is lazy, you somehow had problems, and you are supposed to fly with that person again. It gets really stressful and very, very anxious. Like a person gets very anxious. Personally, there's no mental peace when you're flying. Because of confined spaces, small spaces, you're supposed to 100% show your teamwork, and 100% your communication should be really good, because the supervisors or the customer, somebody or the other will notice it and you will get into trouble. Because why? You will not be able to perform. You will have some issue, and if there are no communication, you will have kind of tension in your work. Again, small places, you have really small galleys, one cart, sometimes two of you are doing, and you cannot argue or disagree. So you have to 100% follow the procedure and also have a good relation professionally with your cabin crew colleagues, which if you don't get along with each other because of any of the following reasons which are discussed, can get really difficult, can get stressful, can be upsetting. Your whole layover, for that matter, the whole flight going and coming can really be very, very it can actually be a nightmare. See, if you as a person, when they talk about your personalities and you see that yes, it is easy for me to adapt and gel along with people and I'm good at communication, it really matters if you are as a person, because if you're not, it is only going to harm you. Like, it is going to be stressful for you only. Because if you are someone who's an introvert and does not talk to people, people might even consider you, like you might come across as someone who's very rude, is arrogant, has a lot of attitude, does not talk to people, is lazy, does not want to work. And you're not in a happy environment. And trust me on this, if you're not happy in a flight, you're not working, your customers can feel it, your crew can feel it. And you will not be working in that good environment, that positive environment. So all of this can be very, very irritating for other people and stressful also. So again, as much as it is a very good and an amazing lifestyle and it is very fascinating to work in an aircraft in a small place you're going, it can be stressful as well, because first comes your duty. You are performing duties perfectly, 100% with good teamwork in that small place. If you're not working 100% perfectly in that space, that thing will turn into a fight, a conflict, and will even take further. You can actually extend it. You can be called for debriefings in layovers. You'll be discussing it. It can spoil your layovers as well. And you can be called in office later again for this. So people who are very, very sensitive about things, try to not be very, very sensitive, because if you're sensitive, you will perceive the other person wrong and you'll take it to your heart, and then it gets very difficult. So if you're emotional and it's very difficult for you to handle harsh words and direct people, this job is not for you. And with that, I come to the end of this video. I guess I've discussed a lot of things. I've tried to cover the most basic and very, very important things to give you a kind of insight of how this glamorous cabin crew job is, behind the scenes of it. I hope you find this video really helpful and you think about this, decide wisely whether you want to get yourself into or not. It is not that bad also, but everything, if it looks very glamorous and amazing, it is not so. There is a lot of things which goes behind the scenes also, and I thought that I should let you know all this, because by the time I joined, there was not a lot of videos or anyone else to tell me about all this. And as a very young candidate, it can be very difficult, sometimes very intimidating. It can be very difficult to cope up with this kind of environment. So on that note, I will just end this video. I've spoken a lot in this video. Hit the like button if you liked my video, and I will see you in my next one. Till then, take care and bye bye.